Hello and welcome back to my channel, Lydia Lost the Plot. I'm Lydia and I'm here today with 5 reading recommendations for autumn. Now, autumn is one of my favourite seasons. I think it's my second favourite season. I do love summer only because I feel like when it's sun shining, everything is a lot more dealable with. I feel like I'm just naturally happier when the sun is out. However, those cozy nights of autumn, the leaves on the floor, the fireplace and hot chocolates, they are all very close to my heart. And I do love that kind of September, October time. My birthday's in October as well. Would you believe my birthday's on Halloween? I know, I'm a witch. So I do love autumn, and I don't tend to read by season very strictly. I think that really you should read what you want when you want, and it doesn't really matter. You want to read a Christmas book in June, you read a Christmas book in June. I am a mood reader, so that's probably why. But I do think there are some books that are just really suited to that cozy, slightly sort of like, you know, rain on the windows, you've got your dressing gown, those kind of vibes. You know what I mean? I know. So I've got 5 books here that I think are perfect for that kind of vibe and that feeling. And the first one that I'm going to talk about, it's pretty self-explanatory why I would have chosen that, and it is Ali Smith's Autumn. Now, I mean, the cover itself makes you just feel like you're in the right place. This is part of her seasonal quartet, and it was shortlisted for the Booker Prize in 2017. I read this alongside the other 3 in the quartet. Was it last year or the year before, and really enjoyed the reading experience. I'm not an Ali Smith fanatic like some people are. I know that some people have like full on go invested in her work. I thought she was brilliant, but it's not necessarily something that I'm desperate to read more of. However, this book, it's full of the autumnal vibes, and I feel like it's one of those books that just gets you in the mood for the season. I'll read you a bit of the back. And it says, Daniel is a century old. Elizabeth, born in 1984, has her eye on the future. The United Kingdom is in pieces, divided by a historic once-in-a-generation summer. Love is won, love is lost. Hope is hand in hand with hopelessness. The seasons roll round as ever. Ooh, you see? It's like, you know, and I feel like that slight feeling of I do think that you start sort of grieving the light nights and the long days, and it can feel like a big transition when we go into autumn and we get the colder weather. So pick this up if you fancy a bit of that vibe. The next book that I have chosen that I think it would be a great autumn reading recommendation is On Earth We Are Briefly Gorgeous by Vuong. Now, the cover screams autumn, and I know, don't judge a book by its cover, but we do. And I feel that this book has all of those sort of reflective vibes that we tend to, or I tend to go towards and gravitate towards when it gets darker, when there's longer evenings. I feel like it's more of a time for self-reflection, and this is very much a book about that. I'll read you a bit of the back. I know it's quite a popular novel, but if you haven't heard of it before, it is phenomenal. This is a letter from a son to a mother who cannot read. Written when the speaker, little dog, is in his late 20s, the letter unearths the family history that began before he was born. It tells of Vietnam, of the lasting impact of war, and of his family's struggle to forge a new future. And it serves as a doorway into parts of little dog's life his mother has never known. Episodes of bewilderment, fear and passion, all the while moving closer to an unforgettable revelation. Now, it is so introspective and it is beautifully written. I mean, Vuong has a way with prose that is just on a different level. And I feel like if you want something that's sort of, it is cozy, but it's also it still pushes boundaries, it still plays with form, it plays with stereotype, it plays with narrative style, and it's nice to kind of sink your teeth into that. And so yeah, get a bit of this in your life this autumn. The next book that I've chosen is a dystopian novel, and it's one that I really loved at the time, and I would like to go back and reread. Now this is the proof copy because I haven't got the actual copy, but this is Whether Violent or Natural by Natasha Calder. Now I was able to interview Natasha Calder about this book on a podcast I used to do, and she's phenomenal, and the book is brilliant, so I'll read you a little bit about it, and then you might know why I think it's perfect for autumn. On a remote island, far from the chaos that has engulfed the mainland, Kit and Crevin eke out an existence. Amidst the ruins of a collapsing castle, they spend their days in an underground bunker packed with emergency stores, venturing out only at night. They are safe. One evening, however, a woman washes ashore, nearly drowned. Craven wants to keep her alive, but Kit isn't so sure. As the crisis brought about by her appearance of the drowned woman starts to consume them, the fictions of their shared experience crumble and truth begins to emerge. Now, it's cracking. It is so gripping and so interesting, and it's this sort of insular world in this bunker, and it gives you little hints about what may have happened, what might be going on, and then leaves you to fill in the blanks. And I love that about this book. It doesn't give you everything on a platter. It doesn't say, here's exactly what it is, here's all the exposition. Natasha Calder makes you work for it, and I like that. She doesn't talk down to the reader, she doesn't condescend at all. She expects you to do the work in this book, and I like that. It's also really good in terms of, it's got quite a lot of scary points in it. And I don't just mean slightly going into horror tropes. It is a dystopian, and it does fall into those tropes. Not in a bad way, in a good way. It utilises them in a really good way. But it all is narrative led and narrative driven, so it doesn't feel like a horror novel, and it doesn't feel like a thriller. It feels like somewhere in between, and I like that. It's subversive and different, and it's a book that I think will people who liked Leave the World Behind by Rumen Alam would enjoy. If you are a fan of dystopian fiction anyway, you know, classics like 1984, Handmaid's Tale, this kind of goes with that. Also, if you like Julia Armfield and Stephen King, there's elements of that kind of slant in this book. And I just feel like for autumn, I feel like we are coming up to spooky season. Like I said, I was born on Halloween. I can speak about spooky, and it's nice that this has those elements without it going into a full-on horror novel. So I feel like it's a bit of a gateway drug. It's a gateway between, if you like a bit of thriller, a bit of dystopian, but you're not sure about horror, it kind of takes you into it. It's nice. I like it. Now, the next book that I have chosen is a phenomenal book, and it's probably a book that you've all heard of, but maybe not have read, and I'm telling you to read it this autumn, and that is Susanna Clarke's Piranesi. Now, it's just so good. Let me read you a little bit about this one. Piranesi lives in the house, perhaps he always has. In his notebooks, day after day, he makes a clear and careful record of its wonders. The labyrinth of halls, the thousands upon thousands of statues, the tides that thunder up staircases, the clouds that move in slow procession through the upper halls. On Tuesdays and Fridays, Piranesi sees his friend, the other. At other times, he brings tributes of food and water lilies to the dead. But mostly, he is alone. Messages begin to appear, scratched out in chalk on the pavements. There is someone new in the house. But who are they? And what do they want? Are they a friend, or do they bring destruction and madness, as the other claims? Lost texts must be found. Secrets must be uncovered. The world that Piranesi thought he knew is becoming strange and dangerous. The beauty of the house is immeasurable. its kindness infinite. Oh, and look at these end papers. So pretty. It's just so good, and it's not what you think it is. If you think it's going to be some kind of I don't know, mythical, difficult to get on with text, nope, not that. If you think it's going to be a horror or a thriller, nope, it's not that. If you think it's going to be literary fiction, nope. It's unlike any book I've ever read, and there's a beautiful mystery wrapped throughout the whole of the narrative. It kind of weaves in and out and gradually reveals itself like a you know, an oasis in the desert. It's just so wonderful, and it was so unexpected that when I picked it up, because it won the Women's Prize, I was sort of like, oh, I'm not really into historical fiction or anything like that. It's not historical fiction. I don't know why they brand it this way, because it just doesn't, it screams historical fiction. It's just not that at all. And I think it's just perfect for those dark winter nights, or autumnal nights, should I say. And for sitting and getting lost in a story. Susanna Clarke is a fantastic storyteller, and it does take you a little minute to just get used to the world, because she doesn't, again, like Natasha Calder, she doesn't talk down to you. She expects you to keep up. Here's where we are, go with it. And I like that. And so it's sort of just a wonderful way to just jump in, dive in, like Piranesi dives into water, into the oceans. You know, we as readers have to invest ourselves, we suspend our disbelief, and we go with it, and she makes that so easy. And this is a brilliant book to get to. So if you're and ahhing about whether or not you should have got to this, hopefully this was giving you a little push to pick it up, because it's been out a while and it's amazing. And last but by no means least is another favourite of mine. Now, when I went for my first job interview in a bookshop, I was told that I had to come in and pitch and sell a book. And I was like, oh, what could I pick? And I thought I could pick Stephen King, because I know a lot about him. And I could pick someone like Gabriella Zevin, because I love like Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, and I can wax lyrical about that forever. But I chose this book, and I chose it because it's different, and I felt like it was going to be a book that people maybe hadn't heard of. So once again, I'm going to try and pitch it to you. Listen, it got me the job. But the book that I'm talking about today is Isaac and the Egg by Bobby Palmer. Now, Bobby Palmer, I also got the chance to interview on my former podcast, and he's just an absolute delight. He's a wonderful, wonderful person with brilliant taste in books. If you've not listened to his podcast with Pandora Sykes, which is called Book Chat, then please go check it out, because they have such a great conversation about loads of backlist titles. It's not about the new stuff, it's about your older stuff. They talk about Bridget Jones's Diary, they talk about One Day by David Nichols, some Virginia Woolf. Like they will literally just dive into all of these classics, all of these backlist titles, and it's just nice. Sometimes I feel like we put the emphasis on new books so much, particularly in realms like this, on BookTube and on Bookstagram, BookTok. It's a lot about the new stuff, the new releases, what's the next best thing, and a lot of the time we lose track of the, you know, the great books that are already in existence. So this is a great book that is already in existence. It has been out quite a few years now, but it is just so phenomenally good. Let me read you a little bit of the blurb. A young man walks into the woods on the worst morning of his life and finds something there that will change everything. It's a tale that might seem familiar, but how it speaks to you will depend on how you've lived until now. Sometimes, to get out of the woods, you have to go into them. Isaac and the Egg is one of the most hopeful, honest, and wildly imaginative novels you will ever read. And I cannot tell you how true that is. This book is just so phenomenal. It's also got really cool things. Like, it has a screen in it that lasts several pages. he just plays with form and style, and he fills this book full of pop culture references. So if you are a fan of kind of like 1980s sci-fi films, I'm talking like E.T., Back to the Future, blah blah blah, the cultural references in this are on point. They are so good. And Bobby Palmer he writes, this is predominantly a book about grief, like, let's just make that clear, and he writes about it in such a delicate, beautiful way that you get so invested in this man's journey. And in the egg, he finds this egg, and it's ridiculous. You can be emotionally attached to an egg, but you do. And I think that what Bobby Palmer has done brilliantly is he's merged a lot of the literary tropes of sort of like a grief memoir or a book that deals with grief, mixed that in with a sci-fi sort of E.T.-esque book, and it just works. And if someone had pitched this to me, guy finds an egg in the woods, he's dealing with his grief, but he finds this egg, you'd be like, what? But it's so phenomenally good, and I absolutely adore Bobby Palmer, and I really like the way he sees the world and the way that he writes about the world, particularly about grief. And I think when it comes to autumn, I lost my mother in autumn, and so for me it is a time of reflection and about it brings up a lot of emotion for me, because I miss her more than I've ever missed anyone in my life. And it's a book that deals with those feelings, and sometimes you need that. You need an outlet, and books can help us so much with our grief, with our difficulties in life. If you're going through stuff, you see identification in a book and it just feels better. It just feels like you're not alone, and this book made me feel not alone. And I cannot tell you how affected I was. I just lost my mum when I read it, and I cannot tell you how much this helped me. So it's a great read, and it's perfect for autumn. So those are my 5 reading recommendations for the autumnal season. I hope that some of those are new to you, or that some of those have interested you or piqued your interest, and that you might want to get to them. If you have any questions about them or want to chat to me about them, please do leave a comment in the comments down below. And also let me know what your autumn reading recommendations are. If you want to make a video, this video was inspired by Savage Reads, by the way. Completely inspired, because I was like, oh, autumn reading recommendations, I'd like to do that. So thank you, Simon, for the inspiration. But if you would like to do your own video, or you would have your own list, please do tag me so I can see them. And also, if you have enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe. But I'll see you soon, and bye bye.